Kidnapping down! 3!
I don't want to die here.
2!
We have to go now.
Oh, it's gonna be a long night.
On the surface, she seemed to be adding sugar to her coffee. In fact, she was secretly observing the others, because she is convinced that among the 4 people in front of her is a very dangerous kidnapper. Now the woman must remain calm. She's trying to get to know everyone by playing cards, to determine who the real culprit is. The woman's name is Gina. A few minutes ago, she wanted to make a phone call outside, but there was a blizzard. She searched for her phone, but it was still out of service. At that moment, the van next to her made a sudden noise. When she heard the noise, Gina immediately approached the van to observe. Gina was a bit confused. At this moment, she thought she was blind, so she looked again. Gina couldn't believe it when she saw the girl tied up. She tried to save her, but the car door was already locked. The heroine knew she couldn't ask for help, because the murderer was hiding among them, but she couldn't open the door. In a hurry, she had to take a picture of the van's license plate, and told the girl to hold on. I will find a way to save her. Suddenly a pair of eyes were looking here. Gina was so scared that she froze on the spot. After a short period of thought, she had an idea. She continued to hold her mobile phone and pretended to look for a signal, waiting for someone to leave the window. Gina rushed back to the car. Calling the police was definitely the best option, but the mobile phone signal was still on strike. It's not a good idea to go on like this. She had to go back to the service area before making any plans. Looking at the strangers, Gina couldn't help but feel numb. She couldn't be sure whose car it was. Blindly asking questions would only alert the police. At that moment, an old lady noticed Gina's disorientation. She thought she was freezing. She asked her to come and warm up. We learned that she and Black are husband and wife, also stranded by the blizzard. The same thing happened to Shaggy and Bob, the black-haired man. What happened just now is still fresh in her mind. This makes Gina wary of everyone. At this point, Blackie suggested a game of cards to pass the time. Because of the blizzard, no one can leave now. Sitting around is still sitting around. Why don't we play a few games? And so they all sat together. Gina looked at everyone. Strangely enough, they all looked so calm and collected. She couldn't tell the difference. For now, she could only take it one step at a time, but time is running out. She had to think of something fast, but in the middle of the game, Longhair got angry because he lost the game. Gina suspected that Longhair might be the kidnapper, since the game couldn't go on. Gina used the excuse of urgency to sneak to the bathroom, but there's still no signal. Then she tried to call the police by text message, but the message was cut off in the middle of the message, when Gina was at a loss for words. Gina turned her head and suddenly noticed 2 brand new boards in the bathroom. If she's right, there should be a big hole behind them. So she did it. Gina grabbed a tool and pried the nails out of the boards. When the boards were removed, it was just as she thought. Behind the board was the hole. The heroine rushed to get out. Then she snuck over to the van. She used a tool to pry open the door. When she saw the girl, Gina realized she was still a patient. Then there were footsteps outside. Gina hurriedly covered herself with a blanket. When the door opened, the owner of the van was Longhair. He came to turn on the air conditioning for fear that the girl would freeze to ice. Originally, Gina was going to make a move, but when she saw the stuff on Longhair's waist, she gave up the idea, thinking that the girl has not eaten. Longhair was ready to go back to get some food for the girl. Only after he left did Gina dare to show her face. The heroine told the girl to hold on. I will find a way to get him out. After explaining, she got out of the car. When Longhair came back to open the door, the keys fell to the ground. While bending down, he noticed a pair of footprints next to the car. Longhair then realized that he had been exposed. The man was surprised to find an extra row of footprints next to his car. This alarmed the man to no end, because he kidnapped a little girl. At this time, the heroine also returned to the bathroom from the hole. Coincidentally, Bob is also at the door. Gina dragged him inside. Before he could speak, Longhair burst in. Gina was quick to think of something. Gina had the good sense to chew on Bob. Curly started to get embarrassed. After he left, Gina told Bob what had happened. What's not to like is that there's no signal on the mobile phone to call the police, and Shaggy has a gun. Besides, long hair has a gun and is very dangerous. In that case, Bob also took out the director's pre-prepared nail gun to defend himself. The two of them agreed that Gina would save the little girl. Bob will find a way to deal with long hair. After leaving the house, the heroine looked back 3 times. After making sure long hair didn't follow, she got into the van in a hurry. Then she pulled the mask off the girl's mouth. Just when Gina thought everything was over, the little girl's words made her nervous again.
But where are the men?
Gina panicked when she heard it. By the time she realized, long hair was already waiting outside.
How many men? 2.
Gina began to panic, because Bob was with long hair. Outside the car, they are discussing how to kill Gina. This makes the heroine feel an unprecedented crisis. At this time, the brothers outside are losing patience. They decided to use their guns to kill Gina first. They are approaching the car step by step, but when they opened the door, they were shocked. There is only a little girl in the car. Gina had left secretly at some point. She stumbled back into the service area, but Bob was no fool. He was able to anticipate Gina's thoughts and catch her in the act. Bob deleted Gina's unsent text messages, and threatened to keep it a secret, or he'd get a taste of the bullet. Suddenly, the old lady came through the door. Bob pretended to be in love with Gina to get away with it. The heroine was worried about hurting the innocent, so she didn't say a word about what just happened. They just chatted with each other. At this moment, Gina suddenly realized that the little girl had escaped. It turns out that she used the wallpaper knife left by the heroine to cut the rope and escaped successfully. However, this scene was also discovered by long hair, so he found an excuse and chased her out. Gina also said she suddenly wanted to go to the bathroom. When Bob came after her, Gina grabbed a hammer and beat him up, but due to the difference in strength between the two sides, it didn't take long for Bob to knock her down. He pressed her to the ground and rubbed her like crazy. In his opinion, since the heroine did not listen to him, he might as well kill her. Fortunately, long hair came back at the critical moment. The little girl was hiding. Bob knew that the girl wouldn't come out without Gina, so he decided to take the heroine to look for the little girl. Gina quietly picked up Bob's car keys when he was not on guard. Then she was forced to follow the footprints left by the little girl when she ran away to start searching. Unknown to them, Gina had other tricks up her sleeve. When the two of them were off guard, she shone a torch at the murderer. Then she rolled down the hill. Angry Bob raises his gun and shoots, but Gina was lucky to be able to avoid it. But Blackie heard the shot. He went out to see what was going on. Blackie didn't see Bob and the others, but he found the little girl lying in the snow, so he took her back to the service station without saying a word. On the other hand, Gina managed to lose the 2 men. She returned to the cabin early. Gina was finally relieved to see the girl rescued. She told the couple the identities of Bob and Longhair's kidnappers. As soon as he said that, the 2 murderers chased after them. As an ex-military man, Blackie reacted quickly. They pressed against the door. They closed the curtains, hiding behind the bunker. They confronted Bob and Longhair. Bob and Longhair decided to do it the hard way. They were approaching. Old Black shouted that he had a gun in his hand. If he dares to come any closer, he'll die with them. These words scared the 2 men to stay away. Because they were afraid of the military's combat power, they could only observe from a distance. At this moment, Bob shouted that the little girl was a patient. He had her medicine. If Blackie gave her up, he could make sure no one got hurt. His wife, who was a carer, corroborated his story. Auntie thought that if she handed over the girl, maybe they'd leave, but Gina said he had the keys to their car. He offered to let the 2 of them trade medicine for the keys. Instead of pills, they got a petrol can. So Blackie told Gina to hide everyone and the car keys in the bathroom, so that even if they came in, they couldn't find the keys. Then his wife advised him to give them what they wanted, but as a soldier's husband, how could he give in to the criminals? Outside the house, Longhair had spilled petrol all over the service area. Gina returned in time. She handed Blackie 2 handy weapons. She was ready to fight with the robbers. Unexpectedly, the little girl suddenly woke up.
Is this Lowry?
Jay wakes up, looks at Sandy, and identifies her as her family's housekeeper, Mrs. Lowry. While Ed and Ash are attempting to outbluff each other, Sandy had been abused by Jay, and Sandy assisted the kidnappers in capturing Jay, believing it was for a ransom and that she would get a portion of the money. Back in the present, Sandy maces Darby after turning on Ed and shouting to Ash that he doesn't have a gun. Sandy admits she met the kidnappers online and decided to assist them since she was in financial distress. She allows Ash and Lars to access the tourist center in order to provide Jay's medication. Darby informs Sandy that the kidnappers are involved in a child trafficking plan, not a ransom scam. Sandy informs Ash that Darby buried the keys someplace, and Ash demands to know where they are. Ash shoots Ed and Sandy, killing them both. After realizing that Darby is the only one he needs, Sandy manages to spray Lars in the face with mace before he does. Explained ending. With the nail gun, Ash secures Darby's arm to the wall, then departs to assist Lars in cleaning his eyes. Darby persuades Jay to give her a hammer that's sitting around. The kidnappers return to the room, and Ash receives a text on Darby's phone informing her that her mother has died. But he also receives a text informing him that the cops are on their way. Darby's communication to the cops apparently went through. Despite Ash's deletion, Darby informs Ash that the keys are in the snow outside the bathroom after Ash threatens to shoot Jay with the nail gun. Darby uses the time bag of drugs to numb herself before prying the nail out of her arm with the hammer while Ash goes to get them. When Ash rushes in to assist her with the hammer, he accidentally shoots Lars in the head with the nail gun, killing him. Darby nearly flees with Jay in her car when Ash is distracted by this. Ash, on the other hand, blows out her tires, leading her to crash. The visitor center, as well as the 3 bodies within, are set ablaze by Ash. This is, of course, when the cop vehicle arrives. While discreetly approaching Darby in the car, Ash tries to persuade the officer that he's a fine person. Darby shoots Ash in the shoulder with the rifle she stole from Lars. Darby is shot in the stomach by the officer. When Ash notices this, he grabs the revolver and shoots the officer. He's also planning to murder Darby. Darby then murders Ash by stabbing him in the neck with a screwdriver. Darby crawls to the officer, snatches his radio, and murmurs, "I need assistance," into the device, bleeding out in the snow. Finally, she sinks back into the snow, looking up at the snow in the sky, while a dispatcher on the radio inquires if she requires assistance. Darby is back in recovery and has been sober for 48 days. While we don't know how it happened, we presume that aid arrived, and Darby was undoubtedly saved. Darby is shown in her room at the institution in the closing shot, with a drawing from a little girl on her wall that we may guess is from Jay. She, too, made it out alive. Darby's door is knocked on by a nurse who informs her that she has a visitor. Devin, the film finishes with the sisters staring at each other. Phew, what a crazy journey it's been. Except Dennis Haysbert, who is the epitome of trust no one. You're in excellent hands while he's around. Thanks for watching, and if you're new to this channel, subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss out latest videos.